Is the echo my fault? Echo's gone. Anyone hear anyone?
Yep, I'm hearing you.
Okay, cool. There we go.
No, I
Echo's
can't.
gone.
Go get my headphones and then the echo will be gone. But here we are. We're starting round 2 live. We are now live. Everyone's back in. We'll allow someone to recap and share their screen until I get up and going with this new computer. How about that? Sound good?
Yeah, Jim or Scott, you want to jump on it? You guys were doing good there before.
Jim has the whole wrap up, and also Jim roll.
All right, let's do this. Let me share my screen. Let's see, where did we end? Was it on product?
We're doing night ready next, and then landscape. So I think we lost it right around product. I'll be right back.
So are we supposed to go back to that?
Yeah, I think he wants you to recap what we covered.
Let's just do it fast.
Let's see if we can do this quickly. Yeah. So for the product category, I think we kind of had consensus here that our favorite was this photo of the real salt in the foreground and just kind of a cool smattering of ingredients in the background.
Yeah, really nice colors
on the front, and just looks like a good cooking scene, but we didn't love this glare on the top of the bottle. Second favorite was this one of the spatula with some salt on it, but we felt like the product was a little bit lost on the spatula. This photo of the kid with the iPad for VidAngel, I love the aesthetic of the lighting, but he feels like bored, like kid staying up till midnight vegging on shows is not something you want to convey in a product. It's just not the feeling you want to give a customer. So I think that held it back for us. Then this photographer did something really creative in putting it in some water, which was cool, but the water looks kind of muddy and it just kind of conveys the feeling of wet salt, and doesn't just doesn't speak, I think, what you'd want it to say about cooking. And then the one that we put last on this one was the salt and the spilled on the table, and then the salt shaker it just felt a little bit plain, like it didn't speak very much about the actual product there. So those were some of our thoughts, at least, on the product. Next, we went to the plant, and I think we all had consensus on this one as well, that we like these kind of green blossoms. Just the lighting on this one was absolutely fantastic. It's just really, really cool. Ben pointed out that there's some aberrations here at the bottom left where one of these leaves probably should just get cropped off. Little things like that make a big difference when we're talking about a macro shot like this. Verena really liked this shot of the kind of tan weed thing here, but she pointed out that the focus should be on these water drops. I don't know, what else do you call this? It's a weed. It's a plant. It's a dead plant.
You nailed it. You nailed it. Carry on.
But I agree with you with Verena on this one, that it just had some really nice hues. And then several also people said they liked these the grass blades here that are wet here, how they're just kind of all interweaved. It's really, really sharp, and the little water droplets on it looked cool. I also like this of the grapes. Just has a good feeling, looks like an ad for a vineyard or something. So some nice photos in that category as well. And then we went to people. Does anybody else want to kind of take over this one? Tell us what our thoughts were.
You're doing so good.
Oh,
yeah,
just press on.
Interrupt the train. It's moving.
All right. The one that several people liked was this black and white of the woman. She has super cool catch lights in her eyes. The matte black post-processing really works to simplify it, especially where she's wearing more of a busy outfit. But it's the symmetry that I think really makes the photo stand out. Her hair's parted in the middle, her zipper's going down in the middle. It's just really compelling. You just can't take your eyes off it. It's really cool. The next was this photo of the couple. It just looks nice and clean. Looks beautiful. If you're hiring a photographer, you want a photo of your family, this is what you expect to put on your wall. Nothing crazy out of the ordinary. You just want something beautiful that makes you look good, and I think this definitely fits the bill. We had a long discussion on this guy in the leaves, and everybody had a little bit of a different opinion on it. I think I agreed with Verena on this, that the guy feels very random. If this were like a kid playing in the leaves, it would make a little bit more sense to me. Was it Scott who pointed out that this would work well though on like a album or a cover art kind of thing, just because it is just kind of it's different. It's different. We talked a lot about his nose, that it's some people like that it's out of focus, others didn't. But also the light hitting on the nose, I feel like may have hurt the image. Ben mentioned that he did not like this image of the man standing on the tree stump. He put this as number 5, but several others of us liked it, mostly because this is, killing trees here, just sending the wrong message for him, being an Oregonian. But I like the aesthetic of it. The only thing that's missing from this is raw testosterone and a chainsaw. It looks awesome.
Husqvarna.
Then we looked at this photo of the girl jumping in the puddle, and I loved the idea of this, but I couldn't put my finger on what was. It just didn't feel quite right, and I can't. Whose suggestion was it to flip this upside down?
Definitely.
Anyway, awesome suggestion. I think that would totally fix this. It's a cool photo. Just something about the crop didn't feel quite right, and I think that would totally fix it. And that is, we're caught up, I think.
That was awesome. Thanks. And I hear that someone may have recorded it. We obviously got an amazing recap, but we'll see what we can do.
Yep, it's recorded.
Nice. Well, that's awesome. So where are we at now? You want to keep going?
Yeah, we're in second to last year, advanced night.
Ben, maybe you better take the lead on this.
Sure. All right, let's jump into the night stuff. Do I need to do a screen share, Jarvie, or are you doing that on your side?
You go for it till I get it ready.
All right, let's see here. Let me do screen share, photography decathlon. So if you guys can see what I've got, you can see right off the bat that they were just hoping to have some clear skies. Like imagine some Milky Way stars in these locations would be pretty epic, but weather did not give it, so they worked hard with what they got. I'm quite impressed. I'm going to be super tough and critical because we're in the advanced stage here. I kind of want to see more. I've got one that I really like a lot. And for sake of time, you know what? Let me just jump into it rather than bait this whole thing slowly. This one here is like Gotham City, Sin City, Batman's on the roof. The light going at number 5 there, the last one. The light going up, the rain coming down, some of the water flares. Like this is difficult. This is very technically difficult to do, and I love the tonal draw of it. I like the composition. I don't know. I could stare at this one all day long. I'd put a print of this on my wall. I'd love it. I want to like these other landscape ones, but I think that they made the efforts to go out there, probably hoping that the clouds would clear, and it didn't happen. And I just don't think that these abstract landscapes with the colored sky is enough. The steel wool is really fun. I can guarantee you the photographer got a lot of sparks in his or her collar standing that close to the person doing it. But, give me something more. Like I want to see the varied landscape or something, not just the steel wool. The city one is fun with the trains flying by and the center composition. I'm going to guess it's a composite moment, and they didn't both come by. But when I complained before that the one image in the city was too warm, this one feels too cool and purple. Like I want to see some warmth. I want to feel like I'm in a city. And this feels like an HDR Jetsons moment. So for me, hands down, is the last one there at the bottom, number 5, and it's that black and white looking up at the streetlights.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. I like some of the dunes catching some of the light pollution under the clouds there. But I didn't feel it was anywhere near as strong as some of the other images. I've seen a lot of the steel wool images, so I'm kind of getting a little worn with that. Although I agree, he has some personal self-sacrifice here, and that camera was really in there. But it doesn't capture. I mean, this could have been shot, here in Milwaukee. It doesn't really capture the area. Not that was a requirement of this, but I think your laydown on this is pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm right there with you.
100%.
So on the steel wool, something I found, if you can find things to bounce it off of, have some proximity stuff, and you don't just see the sparks radiate, but then they're ricocheting off, and you can almost define a landscape like in a radar sort of way with the steel wool. It's fascinating, where it's not just what is lit up, but the path of the sparks and how they bounce off. It's literally like bat sonar. When you give it things to fly off of. It's really cool. So, the desert, find some stuff for things to bounce off of, and that would define it in a really interesting way.
Yeah, pebbles and rocks on the ground would be great.
Really, really dry grass, right?
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Abandoned gas stations, things like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you really nailed that, Ben.
Oh,
yeah, I like the dune with the light painting that kind of goes off into the distance, though, with the sunset. I do enjoy this image. I ranked it number 2, just because a lot of the other ones, they all have issues, or I didn't say they have issues. They all have positives to them, I'll say. But I enjoyed this one the most out of the remaining ones.
I like the tones.
Yeah, it's warm. It's very Arrakis-esque.
Here's a question, Scott, to tease the imagination. The light pollution is on the left, the brightly lit dunes on the left. What if the right side was more brightly lit and you kind of had these opposing light forces, or would that feel weird to you?
Oh, I think I'd probably wonder what is causing it, though. Like, what is the source of that light?
So this makes more sense the way it is.
Well, I don't know that it matters so much. I still see the peak of the dune heading into the distance, and it didn't even occur to me which side was really lit, because they're both kind of lit. But I do like the wavering line, and my eye automatically follows it around until I see the sunset. I do like this image, but it is not stronger than the black and white. The black and white, you're right. With the rain, it is just brilliant perspective. I mean, you could have easily taken that first image standing up next to the street lamp, watching it fall down, but getting down underneath it like that, great idea.
This is a 5-star photo. Absolutely awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of photographers that couldn't put that in a portfolio. It's really neat.
I agree completely. It's just absolutely perfect. I love it.
It's one of the few. It's this one and the kids reading in the tent that we've all agreed with.
Yeah, that's true. That was it.
Yeah.
All right.
I just thinking that. I'm like, of the images we've seen tonight, those two have been just bombshell images.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right, landscapes.
Last one.
All right.
Scott, you want to do it? Or Verena? Who's up?
Oh, Verena, you can go for it.
Alrighty then. Let me just share my screen. Hold on one second. And there it is. Okay. Should be able to see it now.
Is it still coming up a little blurry?
All right. So
I see what you did there.
Oh.
All right. So what did I miss? What am I missing? Everybody's laughing over there, and I'm like,
"Your sleep-deprived mind missed the joke that the vertical blur was his blurry screen joke."
Oh, yeah,
I missed it too.
It was actually funny, but it was because I was still on Ben's screen, and it takes a while because of his Wi-Fi.
Oh, it was unintentionally next level funny.
Yeah, but yours is coming up just fine, Verena.
All right. So, for me, this shot, I know you guys aren't seeing it yet, but
yep,
we're showing it.
Okay. So for me, the number one here is this beautiful Tony Grove Lake, blue lake, the blue mountains, a little splash of orange on the right. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I wish it were not cropped so tight on the top.
Agreed.
I want space up there. I don't need a whole lot, but I need a heck of a lot more than that. So, but the atmosphere is just beautiful. This is a breathtaking image. Love the reflection in the water along the edge of the lake. There are just so many great details here. So this is a beautiful composition. In terms of, technically, it's really beautiful. So that gets my number one spot. This shot of the the blurred trees here. This is a moving camera shot. I love that. This is my number two. So the golden tones, the repeating patterns, the subtle depth that's happening here. You know, we all know what it is, but the motion blur with the camera is really, really nice. I like that. Number 3, I have this shot with the road and the beautiful, beautiful fall colors. I don't consider it the strongest shot here. I think, yeah, it's not the strongest composition. I want to kind of pull back. I want to put the road in the middle of the shot and have it kind of leading me into the distance, you know, which is sort of a more typical photo of something like this, maybe. And, you know, getting in close to the leaves is really nice. But I don't feel like this is the strongest composition here. The leading line that road could make is kind of getting lost here. It just feels like kind of a slab of gravel.
When you have tack sharp focus to infinity too, so you have no real foreground, middle ground, background separation.
Right. And there's no really exciting atmosphere happening here. It is a very pretty scene, and that's it. You know, give me a little fog. Hey, breathe on your lens, you know. Just a little bit. I think it could go a long way. It feels a little bit uninteresting despite the brilliant colors. This shot is, again, gorgeous, gorgeous colors. I love the crazy clouds in the sky. I love the mountain on the left. But I feel like we're a little bit wide and there's a little bit too much asphalt here. You know, I want to kind of zoom in and take away some of that dead space. It doesn't feel like negative space. It feels like dead space to me.
I totally agreed with this. I love the idea that they're going with on this photo of just this wraparound road, but it's too much asphalt. My thought was if they went, you know, 15 feet in the air and 10 feet behind us so we can see that ring, but it's just part of the composition is this ring of the road, instead of being, you know, a good 25% of the photo is asphalt.
But I mean, even just a crop in a bit and a slight tilt to the right would have fixed a lot of the argument we're having with that foreground being black.
Yep, absolutely. And that tilt, once again, that tilt, this is like the theme of the evening. So many of these images are tilted slightly, and it really is distracting, and it loses the professional quality. As soon as your image is tilted, it no longer feels like a professional image. So that's, you know, that's.
Where do you see the tilt?
Technical question on that. I think that's like an elevation shift.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
no,
think
it may be in this case.
I think the tilt would only come into play if you crop in closer and you would have to tilt it. Where from here, I don't mind it. Here, it doesn't bother me. It doesn't feel tilted because the mountains in the background feel like they have the correct plane. Isn't that weird how you can't see the horizon, but they feel correct? This feels okay to me. And I agree, it's an elevation shift. It's like this is a switchback.
Yeah,
but
switchback.
if you crop in on this and it's harder to tell it's a switchback, I think you kind of have to give it a nudge to the right.
All right, fair enough, fair enough. And then my number 5 for this set is this shot, Provo Canyon to Trail, Alpine Loop, Provo Canyon to Trailhead. The shadows are really heavy here. They're very dark. The image feels flat because of it. And, you know, the textures that the artist has brought out in the clouds are lovely, but you're getting some color creeping in there, some browns in the clouds, some odd color that really doesn't belong there. And that's because of the, you know, because you're pulling so much detail where there really wasn't that much detail. You know, that's what's happening. Now that can be fixed, of course. You can go in, you can fix the colors, you can still pull those details just as much, even more. You know, it's fine. But if you start to lose the colors and you start to lose the dark shadows in the foreground or in the trees, it becomes a really heavy post-processing issue.
So it's interesting. I love this image.
Really?
I do. I think this is almost, if you look at this, is almost an oil painting level of value control. I mean, so your saturations, your hues, I mean, they're greener, they're darker, but the control in the clouds and not going over exposure, but creating such a heavy atmosphere, and then that trail of the exposed grass or the exposed ground there through the upper right hand side of the ground. I think this is a beautiful picture. I absolutely adore this one. This is my number 2, right underneath the frozen lake one. I think this picture is just really, I mean, look at it, it's an oil painting. It's begging to be put on a big canvas. To me, I mean, it's just really like it. But
It's my number 2 also.
Wow.
It feels like the gods are attacking the lower humanity below. It's like this is epic war of heaven and earth going on right here.
I love that you use those words because it feels like a Cecil B. DeMille, like right out of the 10 Commandments. It's like this is one of the scenes. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, but it's like nobody's gonna get that.
No, that's what I'm feeling.
Well, where are you on this one, Jim?
I had it at number 4. I can see what everybody's saying. I understand. I can see the aesthetic of this one, but it just didn't capture me as much. Mostly because of the lack of a clear focal point or a clear composition. Just kind of feels like a random chunk of earth and sky.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good name of a new book. Random chunk.
Random
Sky. Or a movie. That's good.
Yeah. But I think we're all agreeing that the Tony Grove Lake shot is number 1. Am I right?
I put that one down just a little bit, just because the composition of those mountains that you mentioned, Verena, being chopped off at the top was just
too tight.
It really killed me on that one. I like the idea of it, but that cropped composition on the top.
What'd you put up above it?
I decided to go with the blurry aspen trees here. It's hardly the first time that this has been done, but it's still beautiful. And to non-photographers who, don't kind of see these things that have been done a million times, it's one that people would really like, I feel.
Nice.
Yeah, maybe it's just the light and the weather they had, but I'm definitely a little disappointed that there isn't like this overarching, like, oh my God, this is the one. I think we're all just kind of like, yeah. And it's a little determination of which one's a little bit more than the other.
I agree. I mean, gorgeous fall color, amazing clouds here. And yet I feel like the landscape category was not the strongest category that we saw. Some great photos for sure, but in terms of the landscapes, it wasn't the strongest category.
Very surprised.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hey, to make some people just gonna do that. We did that awesome recap, Jim. And so who's going to be in charge of the screen here? I kind of wanted you guys. Maybe you guys can all share your screen, and I just want to show perhaps the 3 that we missed: product, plant, and people, real fast. And we'll just take another 3 minutes or so just to chat about that.
Which one you want to jump on, Scott?
Ben, you're up first, or I think who's up? What Scott is?
What section?
Scott, you're up on product.
For product, we discussed this when this is right after things kind of dropped. We all came into agreement that this one, the picture of the real salt with the steak and the potatoes and everything in the background was a really nicely balanced product shot. It explained the product and talked about the product. We did discuss this reflection here in the front of the container and possible using of a polarizer to get rid of it, or some dispersion, or even a matte spray over the bottle to help eliminate it. But overall, this one told the story. This one came in, I think, pretty much a second for most people, although the salt kind of took a back stage to the peppers, so it was kind of hard to figure out what the balance was. But overall, we liked the colors. The exposure was well done.
Yeah, you guys were all pretty much the same on those 2.
Yeah. No, we talked about it substantially. I think I varied in this one with a couple of people. I didn't know what the product was, and I couldn't really tell what was going on. And we talked about the child's expression, looking almost bored or complacent, and so this one was kind of a waffling image for me. I rated it near the bottom for this one. We talked about the salt. The salt it's well done, and I love the reflections and stuff. The water is good, but the water, to me, the splashes look muddy. So I was knocking this one around a bit. I think if this would have been cleared up, so it was a brown water, I would have felt a little more positive about it. Sorry, I'm all over the place here. Sorry about that. And then this one's kind of just like, okay, it's salt next to a salt shaker. And again, we had these reflections of the softbox down the side of the container, which kind of pulled away from it. This is a default product shot. Finely done. I mean, I can't really pick it apart. I would have removed some of these dust spots from the sensor in the final image as well. But This so that's kind of how we laid it out.
Yeah, they've seen. I've switched back and forth. Let's go quickly to plant now.
Jim, you crushed the plants last time. You want to jump on it again?
Go for it.
Yeah, let's do this.
And,
Right.
Crusher. He's gonna make mojitos.
Let's do this. Back to plant. All right. We make sure am I sharing? Nope. Let's get this.
Everyone else bring up yours because I'm kind of showing them off a little bit here and there.
Cool. Well, we really like this photo of the green plant blossoms here, mostly because of the lighting. It's just, I mean, it's a lot of mess here of just foliage going on, and the strong highlights and shadows just really set off a clear composition and make sense of what's otherwise a pretty busy scene. Just has a gorgeous aesthetic because of the lighting. Ben pointed out a little aberration on the bottom left that should probably be dropped in. So I think everybody agreed on this one with that being number one.
They did. We just saw that. Okay, so keep on going.
Okay, number two, we had this dead plant that I've been informed is not a weed. It's not a weed.
Poor Verina's plant.
Yeah, it's Verina's plant. Yeah.
I think Verina especially was pushing for this one, and I agree. I think it's cool. But she did point out that the water drops on the end of the plant should have been the focus instead of the stem of the plant, and since that's really where the story is happening, is in those water drops. But just has a beautiful earthy aesthetic to that one. Several of us like this of the grass with the water drops. It's shot really sharp. Good job on that. You can see the little veins in the grasses and stuff, and each water drop. We like how the grass is just all messed up, kind of like Scott Jarvie's beard, you know? It's just all the interweaving lines and stuff are just really neat, in addition to the good highlights and shadows on this one as well. I also like this of the grapes with the water drops on them. It's post-processed very well, kind of with a a split toning kind of look with purples and greens and very subdued colors. I think it's beautiful. The one that I chose last, at least, was this of the little tassels on the end of weed, I guess. And very similar to a lot of these photos, it's just kind of massive foliage, but this one didn't separate the different tassels, the different stems. So it just kind of feels like a blanket of foliage instead of having great separation of highlight and shadow separating each of them.
All right, let's move on over to people. I did show them like kind of where they got even an extra view more than they did on other categories of like where things really ended up. Who discussed this one last time, Jim?
I did.
Because then Scott, I think you, Mr. We've got our portrait guy here. You kind of run through this with us.
Well, I think so. We talked about this black and white being very strong, especially in the eyes. The symmetricality of the image from the part all the way to the zipper. We all really like this one. And it's a very strong image. It's very well done. The catch lights are just really, really tell the story here. The next one was the couple in the grass. This one we thought was well done and something you would expect from a professional photographer, but nothing that really kind of leaped out and set some sort of a trend or was creative in a unique way. From a posing perspective, there's a couple things I would change about the image, but overall, I liked it, and it's worthy of the advanced category for sure. And the colors are just amazing here too. From this one, I had some issues with the focus on the nose, or I should say the depth of field, I should say, the focus factor here. I would like the lighting a little bit different. We talked about the lighting hitting the underside of the nose instead of maybe perhaps a Rembrandt that seems to be a bit uplit, which might work with the kind of the unexpected creepiness of it being an adult versus a child,
but
which is something that's pointed out.
Let's give Ben a moment to talk about this picture.
About this one?
Yeah, you're number one.
Yeah, I love that they have the blue sky in his eyes and the warm fill light. It's literally blue sky reflecting his eyes. I'm a fan of the shallow depth of field. Let his nose blur out. I don't need to see it. I do agree that the light is rotated too far to the bottom, and it's like underlighting the bottom of his nostrils. Scott had pointed out, like, lift it up off the ground a little bit and get a Rembrandt rake across his face, and that would have really picked it up. I agree with that. To me, it's like a fun music video. Like, I'm just ready for the music to start and the funky band start playing, and I don't know what the next scene is, but I can't wait to see what happens next.
Awesome. All right, so your general opinions.
Oh, let me talk about the last one here. Like, awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we missed one. Oh,
yeah, so the last one was the girl jumping in the puddle, and we liked it, but we couldn't quite figure out what was. There's something that was bothering a lot of us. And we kind of figured out that if this had been flipped vertically, it would have been a much more interesting image than in what it is now. And I agree with that. I've seen that done in some architecture shots, and I really thought that was refreshing. And it didn't even occur to me in this until it was mentioned. And I was like, wow, that would have really changed this. I think there's just a bit. I mean, obviously, we talk about the crops of people being above or below major joints. So this crop at the elbow for the upper part kind of bugged me. And I think you could probably sacrifice a bit of that. If you flip this image over, you no longer have to worry about that crop so much because you're complete on the top, on the what would then be the top side. So overall, oh yeah, we had the stump, which offended a few.
I think it offended a one as well.
Offended a one. I was trying to be kind. Offended a one because his house was also chopped down by this very same individual. He's a little resentful. No, it's the druid in him gave it the bottom mark. But many of us like the sharpness, the depth of field, the somewhat storytelling that's going on here. I like this image quite a bit, but that was overall, it was very well done. What are we surfing for? What are we buying here? Someone's on Amazon buying something.
Yeah, Jim, what you gonna buy there?
Sharing my screen. I wasn't distracted. I wasn't distracted at all.
Anyway, that was a wrap up for the missing sections. Hey, look, we're 5s all the way down.
All right.
Boy, nothing gets past you people.
Intermediate to advanced. You saw a difference?
Oh yes, substantially.
Big time.
Forced vignetting, the pushing of color beyond where it should be pushed, and the quite knowledgeable extent to which vertical and horizontal alignments were used and not abused. So yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And more imaginative compositions. It wasn't just standard 2/3 straight horizons. We got curves and cool weights, different places. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, a lot of variety here too. It was fun to kind of go through each category and see what people were doing with kind of the same directives. You know, you have a list of requirements or whatever it is, and they're coming away with some really nice variety.
So suggestions for those that compete in an event like this or the photography decathlon next time.
Well, be aware of your horizontals and verticals. I mean, a lot of those were easy.
Yeah, and watch your highlights and shadows. Watch for blown highlights, and then watch your crops. So many of these crops were just too tight.
Yeah, I felt like composition was probably the thing that killed more of that brought down the images and categories more than it needed to. I mean, the conditions that they had were amazing, with awesome clouds and you know, the rain, that streets were wet and stuff, like really cool, and it made the photos awesome. And so just not making mistakes that probably people are recognizing, you know, as you look back on them, but just not getting too caught up in the moment and missing those kind of obvious composition mistakes, I think could have helped, you know, maybe even half of the photos that we saw.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, we've seen so much color and striking things that every now and then when a muted and toned down one comes up, it's refreshing to see. So an encouragement to not always go heavy-handed on everything, and be willing to do the gentle image as ironically a bold image. And especially to the intermediate group, use color when it helps the image. Don't just push the vibrant slider up to try to compensate, because it can actually distract and make it less beautiful.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with like Ansel Adams and the value system, and you're a landscape photographer, you need some reading, because there's a lot of situations where we're dealing with blown out skies that should not have been there, you know. And you don't need HDR to rescue that. You just need to understand the exposure of your camera.
Yep, that's absolutely right.
All right, thanks guys for joining. Yeah, that's all I got for now.
Can I throw in just a last thought there, Scott? Is like, congratulations to everyone involved. You guys and gals did amazing dealing with what conditions you had. As we've seen, weren't ideal, and it's really impressive the creativity and tenacity that you brought to each one of these categories. So while we have been very brutal and ripping things apart, sincerely, like a hat off to you all to bring in some beautiful images to this thing. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I mean, in only 2 days, that's a lot of effort that was pulled off for all those work.
That's awesome.
30 images, lots of places. I'm guessing hundreds of miles driven from some of the teams. Some of the teams, especially in intermediate category, they did still go to work on Friday.
It's brutal.
They did sunrise. They went to work. They got off. They did some more. They probably had Saturdays more free. So that's pretty awesome. Advanced. They didn't always sleep a lot. They went pretty nonstop, and a couple of them actually they still worked as well. I know a few of the teams, but they had a team to help them out. They spread it around. They strategized well, and so it's pretty cool. Now, what's next is we go through. We have the image scores when I get ready tomorrow. And then they all get totaled together, and that's your team score from all the images. And the teams will be able to see their scores throughout the pictures. Now, if they didn't make it to stage 2, they still got to pick the score from stage 1, and you can go through and see it, see what they improve. They get to see how all those other 20 or so different judges, what they felt about their picture overall, improve, get ready, get better for next year. The totals will kind of determine their placement. Now, if they broke any rules, none of these images tonight broke any rules for images. Some of them, there were some different rules in advance that were broken, but those were team rules. So those will reflect on the team score, not the image score. So, but that's about it. I think I covered some of their questions that they were asking over on that. We did film the team that won our it was an invite event that we did last year. And they came and they won, they came, they conquered. So we filmed their whole experience, because the judging is fun, but to like get involved with their strategy and their planning, and how do they deal with how we really wanted to do this, but the weather affected this, or how they use the weather to their advantage, like that kind of film. We're really looking forward to that. We don't have a date on that coming out, but just pay attention. They're watching right now. They gathered together, friends and family, with their popcorn, I hope. So that's all we have. So thanks everyone for joining. They loved the feedback. Thank you, guys.
Great job, everyone. Thanks, Scott.
See you guys.
Yeah. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Ciao, ciao.